Look, gas prices are up. And we know they're up, and we know that people are hurting because of it, and we're doing everything that we can to ensure that they stay lower. I will say, the president said this, and I certainly agree with it. This is a temporary blip. Okay, what happened under the Biden administration is the gas prices were high for 4 years. Gas prices are higher right now, and frankly, they're not even as high as they were during certain parts of the Biden administration because of what's going on in the Middle East. It's not going to last forever. We're going to take care of business. We're going to come back home, and when that happens, you're going to see energy prices come back down to reality.
A lot of cope coming from the vice president of the United States now that the US has been dragged into a devastating war with Iran. And that war has led to the destruction of all sorts of energy infrastructure in the Gulf region and in Iran as well. Now, JD Vance thinks that high gas prices are just, a temporary blip. It's transitory. Remember the word transitory that we kept hearing over and over again from the Biden administration when inflation was a problem? Yeah, temporary blip, sure. Now, we've been telling you for the last few days how this war has created a major energy crisis, especially following the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Now, the Strait of Hormuz is controlled by the Iranians. They've effectively closed it. And that's a problem considering the fact that 20% of gas and liquefied natural gas and oil is transported through that strait. And striking fuel depots and oil facilities also, creates a problem, limited supply of really important energy sources for the globe. And so this is costing consumers and Americans some real money. So let's talk about what I mean here. So this morning, DropSite News reported that Israel carried out a major escalation by striking Iran's South Pars gas field. Now, this happens to be the world's largest natural gas field, and it's also a core pillar of Iran's energy supply. As DropSite notes, this was reported alongside impacts on other oil and petrochemical facilities in the Asuluye, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, I apologize, area. And so look, attacking these sites is going to limit the supply of oil and gas in the global market. It's not difficult to understand. And so the IRGC noted, we're gonna retaliate. Like, this isn't the summer of 2025. We're not just gonna take it. So you're gonna strike our largest gas field. We are going to retaliate big time, and that retaliation has already begun. So IRGC linked Tasnim News issued an urgent warning, urging people to immediately leave major oil and gas sites in Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar, saying that they had become direct and legitimate targets that could be struck within hours. And then they list the very specific areas where Iran intends to strike. I had to go on air and wasn't able to read deeply into it, but it appears that Iran has already begun its retaliation. And the report added, previously, clear and repeated warnings were given to your rulers about entering this dangerous path and gambling with the fate of their nations. And what Iran is essentially saying there is, your decision to get in bed with the Israelis and the United States is costing you. So congratulations. Now, I don't love this, obviously. This is, again, yet another escalation, but we should discuss why these escalations are happening. Because if you listen very carefully to the messaging from the Trump administration, it is very obvious that he's looking for an exit route. This has been disastrous. It's unpopular with the American people overall. I know we've seen some polls indicating that, for the most part, Republican voters are on board for this war. But Trump is now thinking about possibly putting boots on the ground. He sent 5,000 additional Marines to the region. I promise you, if he puts boots on the ground, it is going to be a disaster for the Republican Party overall. It is not a good idea. There have been some rumors. I have some sources that I'm not at liberty of exposing here, but there's some concern that Trump might actually put boots on the ground to retrieve Iran's enriched uranium. And look, that is a mistake in analyzing the perspective of the Israelis. What I mean by that is Israel is not genuinely afraid of Iran having nuclear weapons. They know that Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons. They know that Iran isn't close to building nuclear weapons. Iran wants regime change. That's why you have Netanyahu urging the people of Iran to rise up, to revolt, to topple the regime. And by the way, according to the Washington Post, it's a cable obtained by the Washington Post. The Israelis internally fully acknowledge that a ton of Israelis will get killed if that happens, but they just want the chaos. They want a failed state if they can't get a regime that is deferential to them in Iran, in power in Iran. So like this idea that Trump and Netanyahu have the same objectives is false. They do not have the same objectives. And so what you're seeing from Israel is one act of sabotage after the next that escalates the war and keeps the United States engaged, which is why it's such a huge problem that Trump did this to begin with. Now it's incredibly hard to get out. It does not appear that Trump has a real exit strategy. Now, the whole thing about retrieving the enriched uranium, some people are thinking that Trump will point to that and say, we did it. We retrieved the enriched uranium. This has been a major victory. We're now going to withdraw our troops. But I don't think Trump realizes it's not up to you anymore, homeboy. It's not up to you at all, actually, because you have two factors you're not considering. Factor number one, Iran ain't done. They're not interested in peace negotiations. They don't want a ceasefire. They have said that repeatedly. They don't trust the United States. They want to do real damage. We shouldn't have gotten into this in the first place. But I think probably more important factor here is that Israel doesn't want the war to end. They want to destroy Iran. So they have no real challenge as they expand their borders in the Middle East. But they're running out of interceptors. And they're dealing with attacks simultaneously by Hezbollah out of Lebanon, which, by the way, Israel is also attacking, and also from the Iranians. Escalation is not a good idea. I mean, I loathe the Israeli government, I really do. But I don't want innocent people to die in any country, including Israel. What they are doing is playing with the lives of Israelis, knowing that they're running out of interceptors, knowing the US is running out of interceptors. Yet Netanyahu continues to escalate. Pretty devastating. I don't know how this is going to end, but it is not looking good.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.